If you'd like to be one of the brilliant GB viewers who make the People's Hour so much fun, please do get in touch with us. You can email mark@gbnews.uk. Now, I'm joined for the hour by author and journalist Ella Whelan. Evening, Ellen. How are you? I have to be honest, you've had a very busy week this week, having you on Question Time. A huge show. Lots of talk about that show. How was it for you?
It was fine. Well, you know, it's one of the... I think the BBC Question Time team are to be commended because it's an issue that a lot of channels, not including this one, but a lot of channels are still very nervous about touching. It was we had a discussion about strikes, we had a discussion about the government and growth and productivity, but the main part of the programme was about because it was in Glasgow with a Glaswegian audience, it was about the Scottish Gender Recognition Reform Bill and the fallout from Nicola Sturgeon's response to the prisoner Adam Graham, who called himself Isla Bryson, and whether or not he was going to be kept in a women's prison or not. And you know, it was very tense at times, and there were some very disappointing answers from some of the politicians. The SNP's representative, Jenny Gilruth, refused to tell us and the audience whether or not she thought that and believed that Adam Graham was a man or not. Kept saying this individual is a rapist. I mean, no one's disputing that. I mean, He's been, charged and sent to jail. And I think probably the reason why it's caused something of a stir is because, I was only really putting forward the position about, I said that sex was real and irrefutable, that most people consider to be as mundane as saying that the sky is blue and the grass is green. And why it's become such a kind of a difficult thing to talk about, I think shows the intensity of some of particularly a kind of a small group of trans activists who want to kind of create a censorious atmosphere around this issue. And I think there's probably quite a few women who are sick of that and want to try and puncture it.
Well, we're not going to be talking about that over the next hour.
Thank God.
I think it's been talked about a lot, clearly, on this channel, and obviously yourself on Thursday. Let's meet our viewers this evening, though, that obviously make this hour so interesting, so exciting. The viewers, obviously, of GB News, the People's Hour, where we take your video calls on topics that have got you talking. So, first on the agenda tonight, with Rishi Sunak's government being marred by scandal and allegations of bullying by the Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab, I'm asking, how do we tackle sleaze in politics? Now, to discuss this, let's first bring in Norma, who joins us from the sunshine of the Canary Islands. Norma, welcome along. Very nice to chat to you, and thanks for sharing your Saturday night with us. So, please, your views. How do we clean up sleaze in politics?
Well, what happened to good old-fashioned ethics and morality? I mean, take the tune that Mick Jagger sings, Strange Game. I mean, it says it all, really, but it's a very old-fashioned view of morality, that people get done and it's very hard to get back into the game and play with the big boys again. But, little Matty Hancock is doing his best and hopefully not succeeding. But the whole thing is an absolute disaster. And I feel very, very sorry for... I'm a floating voter, by the way. I'm not Labour or Conservative. I vote, whatever the issue is of the day. And I'm afraid the Conservative Party is really suffering at the moment because the sleaze is absolutely... It's like Blackpool Rock. It's right down the middle. And in my view, it started with Boris. I don't think the Conservative Party has always been like this. The Conservative Party, for me, has always represented a lot of people who are very... I know some people think it's rather elitist and all the rest of it, and Eton and Oxbridge and etc. And I'm a little bit that way. But these people, the traditional Tory voter has got really good values. And the values that are being expressed now... it's a disaster.
Okay.
Because it's like everybody just does what they want. And we
Norma,
get
let me
away
bring
with
in
it. They
Amanda
seem
in
to get
East
away with
Sussex
it.
just for a moment, just to sort of get her view on this. Amanda, welcome along to the show. Amanda, hello there, how are you?
Hi.
So we know Norma's view on this one, and obviously maybe about how she feels about the Conservative Party as a whole at the moment. About this issue, though, specifically, say Dominic Raab this week, which has dominated the news once again. Do you think Rishi is maybe right to let due process take its right path and then act, or should this be something that's just sorted out straight away?
No, I really do believe that Rishi has to allow due process to play out here, because one of the main problems that we have in this country at the moment is there seems to be a lack of respect for the rule of law. And the rule of law in this country clearly states that anyone who is accused of any allegation whatsoever is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And the problem we have in this woke agenda day and age is that a small minority of people, particularly on the left, are very invested in trying to smear anyone in the Conservative Party or anyone on the Conservative side in general to such an extent that they ruin their lives just by the smear campaign. And that at the moment is what is going on with Dominic Raab. It's all allegations. None of it is proven. None of it has been heard in a court of law, for instance. So, in which case, he needs to be given the time and the space to have his day in front of Rishi to be able to decide whether all of these allegations are true or not. And then Rishi has to make his mind up as the Prime Minister as to whether he keeps him in his role or whether he lets him go. But if we keep giving in to these mob mentality tactics whereby you can just smear anyone you like to get rid of them and cancel them, which is all part of cancel culture, we will have no politicians left in the Conservative Party whatsoever, because this is what the people on the left want. They want to take down the Conservative Party, and that's what's going on.
Amanda, I would say, actually, I mean, maybe it's not just the left trying to take down the right. I would say that we have had trial by media, sadly, for many years now in this country, and this is happening around the world. But if we look at our country on many issues, whether it's celebrities or football players, or once it's out in the press, it's very hard actually to actually be innocent until proven guilty. Ella, what do you? I mean, do you find this as well? It's so, as a journalist yourself, once it's out there. I mean, look, you've had, I'm sure, many comments this week about yourself, and of course, once it's out in the media, it's very hard to get those headlines off.
Yes, well, I mean, as a journalist, I'm a great believer and defender of freedom of the press. So I think that journalists and commentators and gossip mongers should be free to do what they do. And you would hope that the political class are able to kind of have the confidence to rise above it, because the thing that strikes me particularly about Dominic Raab is that, look, no one here was in the room, so we don't know what went on. But the allegations are described as, Dominic Raab has been accused of belittling someone. Now, I mean, call me cold-hearted, but I really don't think that's such a big deal. I've read some of the descriptions in some. I'm sure the guy is a piece of work when he gets going. Who am I to sort of judge on that? But there is a sort of sense of, particularly in relation to allegations of bullying in Parliament, a lot of this is sounding very kind of school playground-esque. And there are lots of things to criticise this current government about, not being able to pay their tax, giving out contracts to people who they have relationships with, genuine kind of allegations of corruption, and also just a basic, complete mismanagement of the economy, of the NHS, of the list is very long. I'm no fan of the Conservative Party. But to bring them down on the basis of them being a little bit mean to sort of some civil servants, some ministers, I mean, you don't want to sound like a kind of glorifying bad behaviour, but politics is a dirty game. Yeah. I mean,
well, life is tough sometimes. and I guess unless we were in the room, unless we can find out exactly what was said, I mean, we're all talking about it now without really having any knowledge of what was said. And hopefully we will find out. I just want to bring in our viewers again. Norma, obviously you were talking about the Conservative Party sort of in general about your feelings about them. About this specific issue, I think Ella brings up a very good point. None of us really know what was said in the room. And if it is all about, well, he was just a bit tough and talked to people in a harsh way, life sometimes can be tough. Is that any reason to sack someone and ask them to step down from their job?
Well, I mean, I always thought that Dominic Raab was a really nice guy, and when he winked at Angela Rayner in Parliament that time, a few weeks ago, I thought, oh, he's quite a racy guy, nice guy. He's always come across as really, really sweet. But there's been 24 allegations, or I think in the press recently I saw maybe there are even 40. Now, I accept the fact that you shouldn't be condemned and pilloried and all the rest of it without evidence, but the suggestion of between 24 and 40 allegations of bullying. I also accept that bullying is a very subjective experience and that some people could be a bit too thin-skinned. I accept that totally, and that particularly women should really start to more stand up for themselves and not be, flaky and moany about everything. I understand all of that, but I've been bullied myself at work. And, and particularly when you're in potentially power positions in Parliament and you're trying to get on, you can't say anything and you're powerless. And I think that sometimes these people, and sometimes, in the main it tends to be men, they can take advantage of their position and be a bit up themselves. And,
Okay.
Norma, you can't ignore.
Can I just cut you off for 1 second? I want to bring in Amanda just briefly on this one as maybe a final word on this specific issue, maybe sleaze in general, but this case, Dominic Raab, we don't really know. Your view? Should he go?
Do you know what? I don't think he should, Neil, and I'll tell you why. I think a lot of what is happening here, it's a case of, I think they're trying to make an example of him to enable their cause to eradicate toxic masculinity, which is another part of the cancel culture woke agenda. And I think really that's what's behind all of this massive smear campaign against Dominic Raab. I don't believe for 1 minute there are 40 plus allegations against him. I'm sure that over half of them are not even real allegations, or really real rather than just allegations. So I think a lot of this is to do with trying to make an example of him as a way of getting rid of someone who they view as being toxic masculinity.
All right. Well, I appreciate your views on that. I guess hopefully we will find out in due course in the days and week ahead, maybe how many allegations there are, so that we actually do know some facts on this one. But for now, Amanda and Norma, thank you. Ella will be back, of course, coming up in light of energy giant Shell reportedly